Well, hello. It's been a while since I've done a video, and I wanted to take the time today to go over a subject that I get asked about from time to time, and I thought I'd go through some topics and discuss that with my viewers. And if you have any comments on this subject, I'd sure like to hear from you as well. So just leave a comment. And the subject I'd like to talk about today is overcoming the fear of camping solo. Um, you're out in the wilderness, away from your car, away from home, all by yourself. Some people can't overcome the fear. And I'll talk about some of the reasons and some of the concerns you may have and how you might be able to alleviate that so you can enjoy the outdoors by yourself. Because let's face it, we can't always go with somebody. Is it preferable to go with somebody? Yeah, I could debate that another day, but a lot of times, if you can't find a partner to go with and you want to get out there, there's no reason why you can't go by yourself as long as you practice some safety out there in the wilderness. So. Yeah, the first thing I probably should touch on is wildlife encounters. People are always asking me, "What about bears?" And in the Upper Great Lakes region where I live, primarily we don't have grizzly bears or polar bears like in northern Canada or anything like that, but we do have a good population of black bears. So they are something you have to be aware of when you're out there. And to a lesser degree, we have moose, wolves, and now cougars, mountain lions, whatever you prefer to call them. They are starting to show up from time to time now as well. Another concern people have is personal safety. What happens if I get injured or if I get sick? People worry, will I be um, able to contact somebody to get rescued? That's another concern. Another concern that people have are actually, this is something I am more concerned about many times than I am about wildlife, and that's other humans. Let's face it, people are unpredictable. We don't always know who we're going to come across and how they're going to react to us, and we hope that every encounter we have out there is friendly, but you just never know. So that's also a concern that some people have, and it's a legitimate one. And finally, I think one of the deterrents or major concerns that people have and why they're afraid to camp by themselves, away from their vehicle on a wilderness trip is because they just aren't comfortable. They feel anxious and fearful, and they're worried about how they're going to be able to relax, and absolutely are worried about how they're going to sleep at night. People, I've been with people that hear little things during the night and they get really skittish, and yeah, some people just can't overcome that fear of being alone and vulnerable in your tent at night. So we're going to go over those topics here quickly, and let's start with the wildlife one. So in Upper Michigan, where I live, there's a pretty healthy black bear population, and so that is a legitimate concern. You have to be aware that they're out there and you may come across one. In my years of in my job, I worked in the woods by myself many times on a daily basis for over 30 years. And believe it or not, I had only a few bear encounters, and most of them were just the bear sees you and hightails it the other way. There was only two situations that were kind of sketchy, and that was because there was a sow with cubs, and but other than that, I really didn't feel threatened. So yeah, Black bears, you have to just be aware that they're there, but you don't need to go around feeling super fearful that they're gonna chase you down and attack you for no reason. It's just not the case. There's some things you can do in your camp to eliminate that concern, and we'll go over that. Okay, probably the number one thing you can do to avoid bear conflicts in your campsite is to keep a clean camp. And when you're cooking and cleaning up, just make sure you don't, if you can help it, don't have any big spills. Don't be dropping food particles all over the ground. Anything that would be smelly and attract wildlife, you want to avoid that. But probably the number one thing is to be really good with your food storage. And there's a number of different ways you can store your food. You don't want to leave your food unattended, and definitely you never want to store your food or anything smelly for that matter inside your tent or near your hammock. That's just a definite no-no. So what you can do, what's typically been done for many years by many people, and I've done it for many, many years, is to do a bear hang. To do a proper bear hang, it needs to be at least 12 feet off the ground and suspended by a rope that is 12 feet off the ground and at least 5 feet from the tree trunk. And yeah, you really need to adhere to that. If you don't get it high enough or you don't get it far enough away from the tree, or if it's suspended across a branch that's big enough for the bear to walk out on, yeah, they're going to get your food. Bears are very, very good in trees, and they can, you know, places you don't think they can climb to, they can get to very easily. Now, finding a good tree and a good limb to do your bear hang isn't always that easy. I don't know how many times I've been in a campsite and spent way too much time looking for a good branch and a tree to hang my food bag from. And honestly, I've gotten to the point now where I'm just tired of it. So I've switched to a bear canister, such as this one here. This is a Bear Vault, and it's bear resistant. It has a lid on it that bears can't get off. It's got these two tabs that locks it on. And yeah, that's one type. There's other kinds that you open with a coin, and they're bear resistant, been tested, and your food will be very safe in one of those canisters. You just need to set it, you know, at least a couple hundred feet if possible away from your tent or your campsite. And with these, you do have to be careful with the Bear Vault. I've been told that you can get some leakage in there if it does rain. So I always lay mine on the side and put it in a place where obviously you want to kind of hide it, but you got to be able to find it in the morning too. And if you're near water, lakes or rivers or anything like that, which I am very often on canoe trips, you have to be aware of where you're placing it, because a bear, when they're trying to get in your food canister, they're going to be batting that thing around. They're not supposed to be able to pick the canister up and run away with it, and never put a bag around it with a handle or any type of bag that they could pick up and carry it away. Just leave it like it is. But yeah, be careful. Don't set it too close to the water. They might bat it and knock it down in the water. You go to look for it in the morning and it's not there. There are also bear-resistant bags that you can use. There's one made by a company called Ursac, and I've never used them. I've heard that they are effective, and I know people use them. The only concern that I would have with that method is, obviously if a bear tries to get in that bag, your food's gonna get stomped on and crushed, and they may not get your food or take it away, but it's gonna be crunched up pretty good probably. So I'd like to hear anybody that uses a Ursack, one of the Ursack bags. I'd like to hear your comments on that. Of course, in some campsites, especially at national parks and some of the national forest campgrounds, they have bear lockers, and you just put your food in those at night, and you don't really have to worry about bears or other wildlife getting at your food. But many places are starting to utilize those, but there's a lot of areas where it just isn't practical. There's too many campsites, and the cost or the expense of putting bear lockers in every campsite just isn't feasible. So, but if they're there, use them. All right, and finally, I'll go back to what I said, I believe, in the beginning, is to just keep a very clean camp if at all possible. I know, we like to cook our meals around camp, and if you catch a nice fish, you might want to have a fish fry. That's totally fine, but yeah, just keep it clean and clean up good afterwards, and never store any food or smelly items. I'm talking toothpaste, deodorants. I don't take deodorant when I'm camping. Never have. It's really unnecessary. But chapstick, anything like that, any toiletries, that needs to go in with your food and needs to be away from your tent at night as well. So, what do you do if you have a bear come into camp? Well, probably the first thing you are going to want to do is just make lots of noise. Yell at it, bang pots, whatever. Just make yourself look big, and don't run at it. You don't want to make that bear defensive in any way, but you do want to let them know that they're not welcome. Make lots of noise, and 9 times out of 10, unless it's a bear that's been accustomed to raiding camps and getting food in a certain campsite, they're going to run away. If they're used to getting food at this particular campsite, they might become persistent, and then they're not going to run away. They're going to keep trying. So then you have to go to some other method of getting them out of your camp. If you're getting charged or they're getting very nasty with you, it's time to use something like bear spray. And this bear spray is something that's very effective if you use it properly. You need to understand how to use it and be familiar with how it works, and be aware that if it's super windy and blowing in your face, you might get some blowback in your face. But you need to know the range of it and how to effectively use it. But if you use it effectively, it works very well against the bear that's has become a problem with you. Now, if you're up in, say, northern Canada, where there's grizzly bears, or even up on the Hudson Bay where there's polar bears, you may want to, and you probably should, in that situation, is take a something like flares, or what are called bear bangers, and you also may want to take a firearm. Now, I know firearms not everybody's comfortable with guns, but yeah, I mean, honestly, when you're in grizzly bear in polar bear country, they're the predator and you're the prey. So yeah, you have to have a way to protect yourself, and a high-powered rifle is generally an accepted thing that people take when they go on wilderness trips up in that part of Canada and northern areas. If you do decide to take a rifle with you, make sure you check all the local regulations, the regulations in that region, and be familiar with its use. Make sure you know how to use it, its range, and yeah, I can't stress that enough. Fortunately, I've never been that far north and yet, and I've never had to take a gunner of any kind with me on any of my trips, so that's never been a concern for me. Well, if all else fails, I mean, if you've tried, some of these things that I just mentioned and nothing seems to be working, you have this rogue bear that just keeps coming back to your camp, you just may have to pack it in. I mean, it's not worth the stress of worrying about looking behind your back all the time and worrying about yourself at night. There's nothing to be ashamed of. Just pack it up and leave. Move to another site or call it a day. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, in the beginning I mentioned some of the other wildlife. Moose was one of them. We do have moose in this region. And yeah, moose are typically not a concern, but they can be if there's a cow with calves or a bull moose during the rut. They can get a little sketchy then. And yeah, you just give them a wide berth, and if they charge, get behind a tree and do your best to get out of the way. They're a big animal, and you do not want to have a run-in with them. In areas where there's lots of moose, it can be kind of interesting. I was camped out at Isle Royal one year, and this was during a time when the population was at an all-time high. And I was at a canoe campsite, and there was moose frequenting there quite regularly. And at night, they would be in camp, and I'd hear them grunting and snorting, and I had one charge right through my campsite, and I really thought that I was going to get stepped on. It was that close. So yeah, moose are nothing to mess around with either. Wolves, yeah, there's wolves in this region, of course, but honestly, most wolves avoid humans, and you may see some. It's kind of a rare sighting, and it's kind of a neat thing to see, but for the most part, they avoid humans, and I've never heard of any issues that I'm aware of around where I live. I've never heard of any issues. And people see them, obviously, deer hunting and things like that, but yeah, as far as being attacked by them, I've never heard of that. If you take your dog with you, you do need to watch your dog, because they are territorial and they will attack dogs. All right, I'm going to wrap this up, and just want to summarize it by saying that in the big end, at the end of the day, solo camping is not for everybody, and spending time alone in the woods is not for everybody. And if you're not comfortable doing that, then find another hobby, I guess, because yeah, ultimately, if you cannot be confident and comfortable with yourself out there, you're not going to enjoy the experience. But at the same time, anybody that says that they're 100% comfortable and they're totally relaxed at all times out there is a big fat liar, because there are times where, as many times as I've been doing it, I still get the heebie-jeebies, and you hear something at night and you're not outside of your tent, you don't know what it is, and yeah, your heart starts pumping. But if it gets to the point where you are so morbidly afraid of being out there, then yeah, it's not for you. There's some things you can do to help yourself sleep at night. You make sure you're good and tired when you do go to bed. I wear earplugs. Some people would say that's foolish because you can't hear something outside of your tent, but still can hear some with the earplugs. But I'm a light sleeper, so it just helps me relax a little bit more and get a decent night's sleep out there. Like anything, the more times you do it, it gets easier. And yeah, I mean, you do it, a couple times, and you might say it's not for you, but if you stick with it, it becomes easier. And a lot of the things we're afraid of or worry about, boy, you have a bigger chance of getting struck by lightning than any of those things happening. So yeah, it's just some things you need to be aware of out there, and be smart and practice. Again, the main thing is when it comes to bears and things like that is to keep a good um, clean camp, and practice proper food storage. So those are just some things that to think about, and hopefully if you want to try some camping by yourself, and are a little concerned about it, these are some things that you should think about. And yeah, I'm, like I said in the beginning, I'm curious to hear your comments and what you have to say on this subject. And yeah, looking forward to getting out on some adventures here as soon as the snow is all melted. We have a long ways to go yet. It was a big snow winter where I am. So yeah, looking forward to getting out in the canoe and hiking and doing all the things I enjoy. All right, well, thanks for tuning in and clicking on my video. If you would, give it a like if you enjoyed this. And like I said, again, leave a comment. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, I'd appreciate it. And I hope you guys are having a wonderful spring so far and looking forward to a great year ahead. Thanks again.